The election results are very interesting. This is after a long time I see the kind of assertion that you coming in from the minorities, the Aqliyat, and also the Dalits to regain the ground that they had lost. In fact, when I went around many parts of Uttar Pradesh and other areas, when I used to say that your voting may be denied because your names will be cancelled from Muslims and other people, and they would say, no, nothing can stop us from voting. This is a right and the constitutional right, and we will vote. I'm not really concerned about BJP's priorities or how they will do it. I have no idea whatsoever what they plan to do. For all I care, they can go for a walk. But the fact of the matter is that there was a great amount of resentment amongst the people who felt they had been left behind. This is the kind of mood which I saw way back in 2004 also, when the BJP was in power and Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, somewhat more of a liberal than the present incumbent is, who and they were running a campaign called India Shining, and it was good for the people who were living in the cities and those who were globalized. But for those from the rural areas, again they felt that they had been left behind. There was no care for them, nothing really happening. This time around too, something similar is happening, but with a little caveat that Prime Minister Modi has been, I think he's been a good student. He's learned a few things. He's ensured that there is some free food grains which is available to the poor and the needy. For quite a while, he's been supplying food to or free rations to about 800 million people, which is a colossal number, and also giving grants for building houses and few more things. But quite visibly, people aren't really happy about it in all parts of the country. They think he has to do something about finding jobs for the young, because people's stomachs are kind of getting filled up, but there are no jobs and there's no promise of jobs. So if you have any idea of the Indian demography, you realize that there are so many youth that are actually entering the workforce with nothing to do, nothing to share. So many of them are, leaving the country, like in Pakistan, going outside to work. Some of them have even actually gone to the war zone in Ukraine, Russia. Some from the side of Ukraine, some from the side of Russians. About 100,000 people have gone to Israel also to do all the jobs that the Palestinians were doing earlier. So politics has contributed to their movement from one place to another, but that doesn't make Indians, especially living in the rural areas, very happy about it. They're deeply upset about this. The other issue, which has been a kind of caused a great amount of anxiety, is also the cost of living, which has soared, and the government of India has very little answers. And this is a phenomena which is, I'm sure, not just confined to India. It is there not just in South Asia, but in the other parts of the country. The prices have gone up. People are finding it difficult to make two ends meet. But at the same time, you have the rich and the filthy rich who look very affluent and doing very well. For instance, Mr. Adani. So that is the reason why you have a campaign of Mr. Rahul Gandhi, which is called the Bharat Jodo Yatra, and subsequently the another one, the Bharat Jodo Nyaya Yatra, for getting people justice, which talked about many of these issues. And contrary to what people expected, he struck a chord with the people wherever he went. He maybe walked for about 6 to 7,000 kilometers from one point in the country to another, and length and breadth both were covered by him. And one of the reasons why Mr. Modi's party seemed to have slipped is also because how Mr. Gandhi's campaign resonated with ordinary people. So these are some of the factors that I thought I must give you before I move further. The outcome of such a campaign should have been a win and coming to power, because 5 years is a long wait, and Congress has been out of power for the last 10 years. 5 years more will see a total change in generation. There would be only Rahul and Priyanka would be left. Many other people just go away. So ideally, Congress should have come to power after this, but BJP managed to work hard to stall that, recovery of the grand old party, managed to stop them from reaching a certain critical mass. So Congress may give an impression of being on a roll and doing very much. But this is a setback, I would think, of not being able to win the entire election and coming to power. Because what will really happen is that they may look very robust at the moment, but the momentum and the strength that an election or a campaign gives you is very difficult to sustain. And although you have elections all through the year in some state or the other, and the party will have to do something about it, but cannot get the same kind of energy that is visible in the case of this entire campaign against for the 2024 parliament election. So I'm afraid that this is going to be a bit of a catch, but let's see how the government is formed, because much of it would depend upon whether there is any space left for the opposition or not. If, for instance, the BJP is not able to get the requisite number from the allies who are TDP and JDU, and they start making overtures at the Congress-led alliance, you might have a situation where the Congress-led alliance may become form the government if democracy really works, and something like that could happen in not so distant a future. So you have to keep your fingers crossed, because in a coalition environment, anything is possible. I think Mr. Modi has been diminished by the elections. The fact that he was a strong man who was also liked very much, that has taken a severe beating. I was one of those journalists who traveled around in his parliamentary constituency of Varanasi, and I remember this seething rage people had, the local people, against Mr. Modi and what he was trying to do to the ancient city. They thought he was trying to destroy the soul of an ancient city by building roads and flyovers and this and that. And they didn't want that to happen. They were also very angry that, he has not made any provision for jobs, whether it is, people who are involved in the traditional craft of making saris, because if you know, there is something called the Banarsi sari, which makes use brocade to make wedding saris both for Hindus and Muslims in South Asia. And they had begun to suffer because of whatever was happening with Mr. Modi's policies. Besides that, there are people who are also very unhappy over how the old temples have been demolished, how many things have gone wrong, changed, because there was some idea that was driving Mr. Modi. So, Mr. Modi, I don't think is going to really rebel in this kind of situation. He's not going to be the same, despite the fact that he will make an attempt to somehow regain the power and the clout that he had earlier. But it is not going to be the same again, because if he's part of a coalition government, he'll have to seek approval of his coalition partners all the time, and they would have the last the veto power that they have on many issues. If you get a sense of the negotiation that is happening between the proposed coalition allies and the BJP, you would laugh, because everything suggests that if those deals are struck, then Mr. Modi and his party and the persona that he represents would be diminished by at least 70%. He would not have the power to arrest anybody. He would not have the power to do many things that has given him this profile. He'll be a pale shadow of his former self. I think there would be a change in the way the business is transacted. Mr. Modi, as I said, could be diminished because of the election results, and also how he has to do business with his allies. And if he comes back to power, that is, he would have to find a way or a mechanism to do it. He will have to get a good, strong finance or economic minister who will end up doing whatever is expected of him. And then he would also have to see that the government remains stable, primarily because there might be a difference of opinion on economic policies. Fundamentally, there would be far greater pull which will be coming from the federal character of this country than what happened earlier, when things were more centralized and the prime minister could say anything. Say, for instance, if Mr. Chandrababu Naidu becomes the main supporter of the BJP, his word would be law on many issues, and he's a great votary of federalism. He could say that the federal interests have to be looked after. You cannot take certain decisions if they undermine his farmers or his fishermen or XYZ. So there will be some major setbacks on WTO. There could be major setbacks when it comes to foreign trade agreements. FTAs as they're called. So we have to see how it plays out. This is a different animal altogether, and we're seeing this resurface itself after 10 years. Mr. Modi didn't have to worry about all that in the past. So polarization is a serious problem, but the election results are very interesting. This is after a long time, I see the kind of assertion that you coming in from the minorities, the Aqliyat, and also the Dalits to regain the ground that they had lost. In fact, when I went around many parts of Uttar Pradesh and other areas, when I used to say that your voting may be denied because your names will be cancelled from Muslims and other people, and they would say, no, nothing can stop us from voting. This is a right and the constitutional right, and we will vote. So there was this great desire to prevent the dilution of the constitution. In fact, the lower caste Dalits were adamant that they had to protect the constitution so that it could also look after their rights, the job reservation that they were getting all this while. So it's a very, very interesting situation that the constitution became the centerpiece of the struggle. So when you have that, the polarization automatically gets minimized. And as my friend recently wrote in his column, that the people of India has quietly told the BJP that they're not going to be party to the continuous civil war between Hindus and Muslims any longer. So this is an important message that comes out from the election. So there is a very little likelihood at the moment of the conversation big restarting or beginning with Pakistan, which was one of the issues which could have come up if there was the return of Mr. Modi and there was, say a certain kind of majority and strength coming in. Because in the early days when he came to power in 2014, he reached out to Mr. Nawaz Sharif, and there was seemed to be the possibility of restoring some kind of normalcy in ties. But those were misplaced expectations, and nothing really happened. Same thing might happen even now, primarily because Mr. Modi will become far more inward looking, and his concerns will be more to do with the West. But you don't know about the man. He could surprise us by initiating a conversation to deflect attention, because he recognizes that there is a certain part of Indian intelligentsia that wants normalcy with ties between India and Pakistan, and also the trade ties between the two countries. If he shows that kind of inspiration, that'll be interesting. But he has not given any kind of hope in the past. So let's see what really happens.